Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another take of Zooming with Kaymitch. I'm super excited to have another Zoom meeting coming out shortly with my next guest, and I'm excited to have him on soon. So let me go ahead and wait as he get on here soon.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yep, I can. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm so good. I'm happy to have you on here today for you carving out some time to be able to talk to me today, be a part of my Zoom meeting.
Yeah, no problem at all. I'm happy to do it. I've seen quite a few of yours on my Instagram page, and I usually watch most of them. So I was like, I'd be happy to do it.
Absolutely. I'm happy to have you on. Without further ado, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Alrighty. Well, my name is Cam Holmes. I'm the director of women's basketball operations at the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Absolutely. Congratulations again on that. That's huge. That's big time.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Starting off with the first question, I always do my research on the people I have on here. I know going all the way back, you started off kind of being a practice player slash manager at the University of Indiana. Kind of how did that boost you to going to the next thing, which was being a GA at Illinois State?
I think that Indiana University was a tremendous experience for
Mhm.
not only myself, but my sister as well. Obviously, she played there, and I got to be a practice player there. And Indiana is a basketball crazy state, so even like just everyone cares about basketball there. Even the people that might not go to the games or might not watch. I mean, they know all the players, they know who's who, and I think that kind of being involved in that program for the 3 years I was there, I got a great sense of the work ethic it takes to be successful in college basketball. I mean, from the coaches to the players and the GAs, it was very easy to see that you couldn't cheat hard work.
Right.
If you wanted to be successful, you really had to put the work in. And our coaches there were some of the most dedicated people I've ever seen. And the players, there's everyone wanted to get better, just 1% better every day, whatever that looked like. And then I also got to kind of see what winning looks like for a program. I
Mhm.
got to my first experience in a college basketball program was a team that won, a team that went to a Sweet
Right.
16, a team that
Hmm.
went to Elite Eight. So I think it was very good for me from the beginning, 5 or 6 years ago, to kind of see like this is what it takes to be successful in college basketball. And not a lot of people have the like fortunate opportunity that I did to kind of be around that, and kind of soak that all in for 3 years. So I think it was great to kind of learn all that stuff from a young age and kind of take it to Illinois State and then take it here to St. Thomas.
I remember us last year going to Indiana and knowing how huge that crowd is. Like it is unreal there. Like the atmosphere, like the dome kind of feeling like it's caving in on you and just being around such a loud, but like they love Indiana, state basketball and how I'm learning being in Kentucky how big Indiana is in basketball and just like you said, being able to be a part of a great program. I know you was there when Coach Britt was there, who's now here at Murray State, and she talks about, the culture in Indiana and how much y'all love the game and how much each coach, each player, each practice manager, like you said, being a practice player, how much is being poured into that. And it's just amazing to hear and see those great, coaches and how they sustain for many years. And like you said, you get a taste of that win, and then you kind of know what it looks like to bring to the next program.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just kind of being in that, like I said, for 3 years, the program has even grown so much since I left. I mean, when I was in my undergrad there for the 3 years, we saw like maybe like crowds of like 4,000 or 5,000
Yeah.
right around there. And then the year after I left, that's when they were like number two in the country and they were seeing like 10,000 a game, 11,000 a game, and even this past year it's like they're selling out the stadium, and it's
Hmm.
it's great to see that growth. But I mean, when I was there, if you told me that they were selling out all of Assembly Hall, a place that's seen national championships and winning for so long, and
Right.
just that meteoric rise is, I mean, it was absolutely incredible. And yeah, I was very lucky to kind of be a part of that. And I know a lot of places say like, oh, our fans are really knowledgeable, our fans really know the game, but when you're there you kind of see it. They don't just cheer for random things. They're like, they really
They're
understand.
into it. They're into it. Yeah.
They're very into it. Sometimes a little too much into it.
Yeah.
I I will admit that for sure, but no, they're really knowledgeable.
Uh-huh. And then it's also amazing too, your sister being there, you being a practice player. I'm pretty sure she gave you a couple of buckets. Everybody know who your sister is. And so that's just big time as well, being there to have that combo to be able to help your sister, but also just having the blessing of being around her. Absolutely. That's so amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it
Yeah.
was really good for my parents too. They were very happy that we kind
Yeah.
of both went to the same school because every time, because we're from Maine, so whenever they would
Yeah.
fly to the Midwest, they got to see both of us,
Both of
didn't have
y'all.
to worry
Yep.
about us being at different schools. But no, that experience being able to kind of be in that environment every day with my sister and kind of having that shared experience every day and being able to kind of like cherish that for the rest of our lives. I mean, that's something I'll tell my kids about, she'll tell her kids about, and just kind of it'll be great stories for, future generations. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. Definitely a basketball family. Yes.
yeah.
Next question. Being at Illinois State, what did you learn a lot about that will help you towards, your position to where you're at now?
Yeah, I think that my first and second year at Illinois State as a GA looked a lot different. So my first year, I was the only grad assistant. We were supposed to have two, and then there was a little bit of a turnover where one of our GAs got a really great opportunity to go be a GA at Iowa State for the men. That's where he went to undergrad, so it was kind of his dream job. So right before the season started, he left to take that job. So I was the only GA. So pretty much I would do a little bit of everything. I was doing scouts. I was helping out with player development stuff. I was doing workouts, like manager duties, like everything you can think of under the sun. My
Mhm.
first year I was doing. And then the second year, we actually moved to three GAs. So we kind of had a lot more help. So I could kind of centralize my focus on what I was really interested in and wanted to do once I graduated. And one of our assistant coaches, Katrina Beck, she had a kid in December. She had
Mhm.
her son Tatum. Um, and her partner is actually our video coordinator on staff. So those two kind of stepped away a little bit. Obviously, with having a child, you kind of just need to be there for a little bit, and it
Right.
took them away from basketball. So our director of operations, Jordan, actually stepped into Katrina's assistant coaching role. And me, I took over the director of operations stuff, and our other GA took over the video job. So pretty much for all intents and purposes, I was kind of the director of operations for a large majority of the year. So I got to really like get my feet wet and kind of see what it meant to be a director of operations. And when I was at Indiana, I interned for our director of ops there because I kind of knew that's something I might be interested in down the line. And I kind of got to do pretty much everything you can imagine just with being a little short staff. So I think that second year, I should say this past year, I really got to learn a ton about all the responsibilities and how organized you have to be and to fit into that role you have to be very very type A, very on top of stuff. So I think that my second year as a GA there really is going to help me with this transition. And also at Illinois State I really learned like how important relationship building is.
Yes.
I realized very quickly that like all my assistant coaches, like they knew other assistant coaches from like
Mhm.
meeting them or like used to work with them or used to have like the same head coach. And you really understand how important it is to be connected because in this industry, especially the older you get, everybody knows
Right.
everybody.
Yeah.
So if like you could just walk by someone or have a conversation with them and not even think twice of it if you're at like the Final Four or a
Yeah.
WBCA clinic. And
Mhm.
a year later, 2 years later, you could be working for them. I mean, you really
Absolutely.
have no
Right.
idea. That's what the incredible thing is kind of about college basketball.
Mhm.
So I kind of made a large effort in my 2 years at Illinois State to kind of become connected, talk to a lot of people, kind of build those relationships because, like I said, you never know how important that's going to be down the line.
Right. You're absolutely spot on, Cam. I think that's a big thing of what I'm learning this year even more. Like the first year, I kind of was really big on definitely the connective piece, but now I'm more so, like you said, trying to learn little niches of what I'm really trying to go into, as far as next. And I think that's so important that you got to have that big role to kind of see like, okay, I know this is what I want to do next. And so I know how to attack it because being a basketball operation person is no joke. Like you said, it's type A, like you're always on the phone. You got to make sure if you got to be on this plane, what time you need to be here, when the food gonna be here, this and that. So I get to work with my DOBO a lot. I kind of talk to her a little bit, kind of pick her brain and kind of how she do things. So I know it's no joke, having to have all of that. And if anything go wrong, guess who they looking at? You. So when you being in charge of everything, you always have to stay on top of it. So I'm glad that you was able to really hone in on that role to now kind of how you are now. That kind of goes along with the next question. How did the position at St. Thomas come about?
So, kind of like I'd mentioned, I've always kind of had a director of operations interest. So I knew kind of when my year started to finish up at Illinois State, I was kind of looking at job boards, looking at postings and stuff, kind of seeing what would be available. I wasn't like dead set on necessarily being a DOBO. If there was another like player development
Right.
opportunity or just kind of player personnel or maybe like a mid-major assistant coach, if those situations arose and I could kind of like make a connection or see a fit there, I would have been happy to do that as well. But St. Thomas, they posted a director of operations position, and I remember the school because we had played them my first year at Illinois State. So I kind of became familiar with the school because I thought it was an interesting story. Because obviously, being from Maine originally and moving out to the Midwest like five
That's
years
not
ago,
that far.
yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
I didn't even really know too much about St. Thomas because at the time it was only when we were playing them, it was their second year in Division One basketball. So I wasn't familiar with who St. Thomas was or where they were or anything like that. And kind of after that, it kind of piqued my interest a little bit. And I always kind of kept it in the back of my mind. It's like this is a really cool school. Like it's in a great area. It's the only mid-major in the state of Minnesota. It's
Mhm.
pretty much just us and
Yeah.
University of Minnesota, which is right
Yeah.
across the street down here. So I
Wow.
was like, that's kind of interesting. My coaches were like, yeah, it's a really good school. And I didn't really think too much of it. And then obviously kind of 2 years later or a year later, I should say, saw they posted and kind of talked to my coaches, see, and again, kind of goes back to the relationship thing. My head coach knew Ruth Sin, who's the head coach here, gave
Oh,
her a call, kind of texted her, just chatted with her a little bit about me. And even on the road when my coaches were recruiting, they would seek out her staff members and kind of just try to find them and like talk to them about me. And like I said, that's why those relationships are so important because you never know who's going to be able to do
mhm.
something for you down the line or even who you
Right.
can help out down the line. So kind of it all worked out that way. Kind of got in contact with her, went through the interview process. It wasn't too long of a process, and then kind of ended up here. So I
Uh,
was really excited. I learned a lot more about the school kind of through the interview process. Like even when you do these interviews, you do a lot of research and stuff. And I did a lot of research on the school to make sure I was prepared and kept finding out a lot of interesting stuff. So yeah, that's kind of how this spot came about.
That's so cool. That's amazing. Isn't it so wonderful how those connections work? I mean, you got to have great connections, but not only just great connections, but making sure you stay in constant contact with them and then making sure that it's not just that just key connection, like it's a relational piece as well. Like you said, knowing people, you never know who's going to be the next head coach, who's going to be assistant, who needs anything of that sort. And so I just think that's so cool. And I also look like it's not even that far from Maine. Like I think it's like a couple of hours. So that's cool that you're kind of closer back to home and everything. So maybe your family will be able to come to y'all games and everything. So I think that's super cool.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean exactly what you mentioned. Like you can never in this industry, you can never burn bridges, even if you kind of rub the wrong way with somebody, you never know. Like they might know somebody and they could say like, hey, this isn't the right person. So you really have to make a concerted effort to be as likable, as friendly, as approachable as possible
Right.
to make sure like you can kind of maintain those connections down the line.